Hello friends, welcome back to our Exacting Video Australia Elizabeth II 10-cent coin, focusing on the years 1968, 1976, 1980, 1993, and 1999. From the rainforest floor where the lyrebird dances to the minting presses in Canberra, Australia's 10-cent coin has told a steady story since decimal changeover. Today we'll walk year by year through 5 key dates: 1968, 1976, 1980, 1993, and 1999, covering the design lineage, where and why they circulated, and exactly what to look for in circulated and uncirculated condition. The first step, 1993 Australian 10-cent Elizabeth, coin grading detail, preservation and collecting tips, and notes about value. I can't browse the web right now to pull exact 1993 mintage numbers or live market prices, so I base this on standard numismatic fact about Australian decimal coinage and best practice grading guidance. If you want to fetch exact mintage figures or up-to-the-minute values later, tell me, and I'll look them up when browsing is available. Today we're taking a close look at a small but beloved piece of Australian everyday history, the 1993 10-cent coin, the Elizabeth 10C. Tiny in size but rich in design and story, this coin has jingled in pockets and registers across Australia for decades. In this episode, we'll walk through its history, the artwork, where it circulated, how to tell a worn coin from an uncirculated gem, and what collectors pay attention to. Whether you found one in a jar, inherited a few, or you're planning a deeper collecting project, here's everything you need to know. The Australian 10-cent coin was introduced with decimalisation on February 14, 1966, when Australia moved from pounds/shillings/pence to the dollar and cent system. The 10C coin has been a mainstay of daily transactions ever since. The reverse, the tail side, of the 10C features a superb lyrebird, one of Australia's most iconic native birds, known for its long, ornate tail and astonishingly varied song. This reverse design is the work of Stuart Devlin, the Royal Mint's designer, who created the Australian decimal reverse motifs in the 1960s. The obverse, the head side, of the 1993 issue shows Queen Elizabeth II. For coins minted in the 1985 to 1997 period, the obverse portrait used was the Raphael Maklouf effigy of the Queen, a dignified, classical depiction used on many Commonwealth coins through the late 1980s and early 1990s. These are the standard specifications used for the modern Australian 10C coin. If you need a verification of the official mint sheet, I can look it up when browsing is available. Composition: cupronickel, commonly 75% copper/25% nickel. Diameter: 23.6 mm, typical for Australian 10C. Weight: 5.65 grams. Edge milled reeded. Orientation: coin orientation typical of Australian coins, obverse/reverse orientation consistent with Commonwealth practice. The 10C is legal tender throughout Australia. All 6 states, New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, and internal territories, Australian Capital Territory, Northern Territory. Australian decimal coinage is also used in several Australian external territories for which Australia issues coinage, e.g. Christmas Island, Cocos, Keeling Islands, and Norfolk Island during periods when Australian currency was in use there. These coins circulate normally across the country and are used in day-to-day trade wherever Australian dollars are accepted. As a general circulation coin, the 1993 10C would have been used in shops, public transport fares, vending machines, and everyday change nationwide. Reverse: lyrebird. The lyrebird is shown perched with tail elegantly fanned. Devlin's work is detailed, with fine feathering on the tail and texturing on the bird's body. On well-preserved examples, you'll see fine feather detail and strong devices, raised areas. Obverse: Queen Elizabeth II. Maklouf portrait. Maklouf's portrait shows the Queen wearing the George IV state diadem. Fine hair detail and a clear facial profile are hallmarks of an unmolested obverse. Legend/lettering: the coin edge legends and date 1993. On the obverse should be crisp. On circulated coins, the high points will be worn first and the date may be softened. Use standard collector grades as a guide. Below are practical signs you can narrate or show on camera. Good G/about good. Major details are heavily worn. Lyrebird outline present, but most feather detail gone. Queen's portrait flattened. Rim may be merging into fields. Points only. Most feathering on a lyrebird remains visible. Fields may show some slight contact marks. Common wear patterns. The highest relief areas, lyrebird tail feathers, and the queen's hair and diadem. Take wear first. Look for smoothing along the rim and flattened feather ends. Uncirculated/brilliant uncirculated. UNC/BU no signs of circulation where on the devices. The original luster mint sheen is present across the fields and devices. Hairlines from handling or contact marks may exist, but there is no rubbing of devices. Mint state MS60, MS70 coin grading scales used by professional services, e.g. MS60 baseline to MS70 perfect. A 1993 10C and MS65 would be attractive. Strong luster, only minor contact marks. MS67. MS70 examples are exceptionally rare and draw strong premiums for higher quality. Proof versions. If you encounter 1993 Proof 10C, usually only in mint sets or special issues, proofs will have mirrored fields and frosted devices and are struck specially. Proofs are different from regular business strikes and are normally sold in sets by the Royal Australian Mint. Luster and surface. Tilt the coin under light. An uncirculated coin shows a continuous reflective sheen. Circulated coins have dull spots and scuff fields. High point wear. Inspect lyrebird tail tips, wing texture, and queen's hair. Loss of edge-to-device sharpness is the first sign of circulation. Contact marks and bag marks. Uncirculated coins still can have small contact marks from minting/handling. The fewer and smaller they are, the higher the grade. Toning and coloration. Natural toning occurs with age and metal composition. Light golden toning is usually acceptable. Heavy staining or corrosive spots reduce value. Errors and varieties. Striking errors, off-center, double striking, planchet defects. Die cracks or die varieties can dramatically increase a coin's collector value. These are uncommon, but worth a careful look. Handle coins by the rim only. Oils from skin damage the fields. Use acid-free coin flips, 2x2 mounts, or inert plastic holders. Avoid PVC flips which can leach and damage coins. Store in stable humidity and moderate temperature. Avoid damp basements. For high-grade uncirculated coins, consider rigid holders that show both sides without touching surfaces. Label with year, grade if known, and provenance where you bought or found it. A typical circulated 1993 10C is generally worth face value, or a small premium to collectors if common. Uncirculated and higher graded pieces carry a premium. The rarer and higher the grade, the greater the price. Error coins, proofs, or unusually toned specimens may command much larger premiums. For up-to-date market prices, consult recent auction results, online numismatic marketplaces, and coin dealer price lists. If you want, I can fetch current values and the 1993 official mintage figure when I have browsing available. That's the story of the 1993 Elizabeth 10-cent coin, a tiny cupronickel ambassador of Australian wildlife and decimal history. Second step, small, beautifully detailed, and often overlooked in your pocket change. Today we're taking a deep dive into one of Australia's most constant companions, the 10-cent coin from 1980. We'll cover its design and maker, where it came from, how it circulated, what to look for when grading one, and why an uncirculated 1980 10C might matter to collectors. Let's go. Decimal currency came to Australia in 1966. As part of that change, the Royal Australian Mint commissioned a set of reverse designs that would celebrate native animals and plants, and one of the most elegant of those designs is on the 10-cent coin, the superb lyrebird. The reverse image, the lyrebird perched on a branch, tail elegantly fanned in a stylized sweep, was created by the acclaimed Australian designer Stuart Devlin. It's an instantly recognizable motif. Naturalistic, yet stylized to work at coin scale. Around the bird you'll find a country name and the denomination. On the obverse, like all Australian circulating coins of period, the 1980 10C bears a portrait of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The portrait style used on Australian circulation coins from the mid-1960s through the early 1980s is the classic Machin-style portrait, the youthful bust used on a number of Commonwealth coinages. The obverse carries a legend identifying the queen and the year, in this case, 1980, tying every coin to its date of issue. Physically, the post-decimal Australian 10-cent coins were struck in cupronickel, an alloy of copper and nickel, chosen for durability and resistance to wear and corrosion. The Royal Australian Mint in Canberra produced the bulk of Australia's circulating decimal coinage from the late 1960s onward. By 1980, most 10C pieces and pockets and cash tills around the country were minted there. Coins are struck on blanks, planchets, that have been prepared to precise weight and size tolerances. While the exact production tolerances aren't glamorous, they're what keep a coin consistent in hand and in machines. Stable diameters, consistent rims and relief, and sharp details when struck from fresh dies. Why the lyrebird? It's an emblem of Australia's unique fauna and was a natural choice for the decimal series. The decision to use native animals across different denominations gave the series both immediate national identity and visual variety. Geographically, although the design is Australian, coins of the 1980 mintage traveled everywhere Australians traveled, from cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth to remote cattle stations, back roads, and island communities. Mint distribution networks sent rolls and bags of 10C pieces to banks and businesses nationwide. Because of that national circulation, an ordinary 1980 10C is common across all states and territories. In everyday life, the 10C coin is a workhorse. In 1980, its primary roles were small chain transactions, public phone booths, remember them? Grocery purchases, buses, and parking meters. Over decades of handling, the high points of the design, the lyrebird's tail feathers, and the queen's portrait are the areas that wear first. A 1980 10C that saw heavy circulation will show smoothing of the high detail, small contact marks, surface scratches, and a general darkening, or even a slight patina from oils and dirt. These are normal and expected for a coin that did its job. Heavily circulated, good defined major details are worn flat. The lyrebird's tail lines may be faint. Legends and date remain readable. These are essentially face value coins for most collectors, interesting only in large quantities or for error specimens. Moderately circulated, very fine more detail remains. You can still see elements of the lyrebird's plumage and the queen's hair detail. Surface marks from general handling are present. Lightly circulated / extremely fine. EF/XF high points show only slight flattening. Fields, the flat background areas, are cleaner and the coin still has a pleasing satiny look. About uncirculated. AU very slight trace. We're limited to the highest points. Otherwise, the luster and strike are nearly intact. Uncirculated / mint state, MS60. MS70 no evidence of wear. These coins look as they did when they left the mint. They may show contact marks from minting or bag marks, but there's no post-mint wear. The higher the MS number, the fewer and the lighter the marks. MS65 plus coins are very attractive and command premiums. For a common circulation date, like 1980, most specimens you'll encounter are circulated. Uncirculated 1980 10C pieces do exist in large numbers, banks and mint sets, so prices for MS60 coins are generally modest, while high-grade MS66, MS67 examples with exceptional strike, and eye appeal can be more valuable to collectors. I won't give you a fixed price here. Values fluctuate with market demand, but some practical rules. In everyday cash terms, circulated 1980 10C coins are worth face value unless they're error coins. Minor premiums exist for AU and low-grade uncirculated pieces. Significant premiums are reserved for double strikes or double dies, doubled images or letters, which can be visually striking, planchet defects like laminations or clipped edges. Errors can move a common coin from pocket change to collector's item overnight. Always photograph and document a suspected error before cleaning or handling it extensively. Never, ever scrub a coin with abrasives or chemicals to make it look new. Cleaning will almost always reduce collector value. If you must remove loose dirt, gently rinse under distilled water and pat dry with a soft cloth. For valuable coins, leave cleaning to a professional conservator. For beginner collector, 1980 10C pieces are a great study subject. Affordable, common enough to find, but with plenty of learning opportunities about grading, mint errors, and historical context. Serious Australian-type collectors will want high-grade specimens of each year, and 1980 is an important annual node in the decimal series. If you pick up a 1980 10C and want to evaluate it quickly, check the date and full legend on obverse and reverse. Ensure it's cleanly struck and readable. Inspect high points for wear, lyrebird feathers in the queen's hair. Look at fields for scratches, bag marks, or toning. Search for unusual features, doubled images, off-center strike, rim clips. Note overall eye appeal, luster, toning color, and strike quality matter. The 1980 Australian 10-cent coin is a humble yet elegant piece of everyday history. It's a reminder of design choices that celebrated Australia's unique wildlife, of manufacturing craft at the Royal Australian Mint, and how a small object can carry decades of use and stories. Whether you're pulling one from a jar of pocket change or carefully inspecting an uncirculated example under a loupe, every 10C has a story to tell. If you want, I can write a short video chapter script breaking these sections into on-screen graphics and B-roll cues, provide a checklist printable for grading coins, or look at precise mintage and auction records for the 1980 issue, useful if you want exact values. Which of those would you like next? Notes. The information above is based on standard numismatic references and knowledge of Australia's decimal coinage series. If you like exact mintage figures, dive variety catalog numbers, or recent auction prices for 1980 10C coins, tell me and I'll pull those precise numbers for you. I can't run live market lookups automatically in this narration, but I can fetch or explain how to fetch them. 1968 Australian Elizabeth II 10-cent lyrebird. Each script is written for a different use case. Short TikTok/Instagram, long YouTube narration, auction/sales listing, museum/educational voiceover, and collector-focused description. Use them as is or tweak for length/voice. Meet the 1968 Australian 10-cent, the lyrebird coin. Introduced in the 1960s after Australia decimalized its currency, the 10-cent features the native lyrebird on its reverse, a perfect symbol of Australia's unique wildlife and sound-mimicking talent. The obverse shows Queen Elizabeth II, as used on Australian coinage in the 1960s. These coins were struck at Australia's mints for everyday circulation, and you'll still find well-worn examples in change. Uncirculated pieces, however, show brilliant mint luster and crisp detail on the lyrebird's feathers. If you spot one with sharp detail and full shine, it's a keeper. Quick facts. Iconic design, everyday circulation, collector value when uncirculated or graded. Follow for more coin history. Welcome back. Today we're diving into the story of a 1968 Australian 10-cent coin. To understand this coin, we need to go back to the mid-1960s, when Australia moved from pounds and shillings to decimal currency. As part of that change, the 10-cent piece became a core denomination. The reverse design, the realistically rendered lyrebird, was created by Sir Stuart Devlin, whose clean, naturalistic animal motifs became synonymous with Australia's decimal coinage. The obverse bears a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II used in that era, and the coins were struck for circulation at Australia's government mints to meet everyday demand. Because the 10-cent was a working coin, most survivors show circulation wear, smoothing on high points, loss of luster, and small nicks. Collectors prize examples that avoided circulation. Those retained sharp feather detail on the lyrebird, crisp edges, and full mint luster. When assessing condition, use standard grading terms. Circulated grades: good, fine, very fine, extremely fine. Describe progressive wear. Uncirculated or mint state pieces will show no wear, only the original minting marks, such as faint bag marks or dye polish lines. For anyone collecting Australian decimal coins, the 1968 10-cent is an essential piece, historically significant, beautifully designed, and a constant favorite. If you want, I can walk you through how to grade one step by step. For auction, 1968 Australia 10-cent lyrebird, obverse. Queen Elizabeth II, reverse, lyrebird by Stuart Devlin. Composition, original decimal era cupronickel alloy. Provenance, struck for circulation by the Royal Australian Minting Authority in the late 1960s. Condition, insert grade here, e.g. -58 Australian dollars / uncirculated. Description, sharp reverse detail with strong feather definition. Obverse portrait clear with minimal contact marks. Original luster present across fields. Notes. Common date in circulated grades. Premiums apply to fully uncirculated or certified coins. Combined shipping available. Photos available on request. 1968 Australian 10-cent coin, lyrebird. When Australia adopted decimal currency in the 1960s, new coin designs were commissioned to represent the nation. The 10-cent coin features a lyrebird, a native Australian songbird famous for its elaborate tail and remarkable ability to mimic sounds. The designer, Sir Stuart Devlin, rendered the bird in lifelike detail, a deliberate choice to celebrate Australia's natural heritage. The obverse shows Queen Elizabeth II, reflecting Australia's constitutional monarchy at the time. These coins were intended for everyday use. Their survival in museums today, especially in uncirculated condition, helps us study minting techniques, where patterns from commerce and the visual culture of Australia's modern nationhood. Collector tip. Evaluating a 1968 Australian 10-cent starts with the reverse, the lyrebird's feathers and tail. On circulated examples, you'll see smoothing on the highest feather tips and reduced contrast between devices and fields. Check the obverse for hair detail and rim integrity. Bright, reflective fields and frosted devices usually indicate an uncirculated strike. Be aware of common contact marks. Tiny scratches from mint bags, which don't necessarily reduce a coin from mint state, unless they're heavy. Grading shorthand. Circulated, obvious where on feather tips and portrait highlights. EF/XF, extremely/very fine. Most detail present some flattening. AU, about uncirculated. Nearly full detail. Only the faintest rub. MS/UNC, mint state/uncirculated. No surface wear, full luster, sharp devices. For buying, request high-resolution photos of reverse and obverse. Look for full feather separation on the lyrebird and original luster. For selling, a certified grade from a major grading service will usually command the best market price. Happy collecting. The 1968 10C is a cornerstone of any Australian decimal set. If you want, I can convert any script into a 30 or 60-second voiceover with time cues, produce an on-screen bullet summary for video, or write eBay/numismatic catalog descriptions for different grades, good MS. Which follow-up would you like? Hello. Today we'll take a 5-minute tour of the 1976 Australian 10-cent coin. Its story, where it was made, what it looks like. The 1976 10-cent is a standard circulation coin of decimal Australia. Cupronickel, 23.6 millimeters across, and bearing familiar lyrebird on the reverse with Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse. It's one of the small coins Australians used every day after decimalization. History and context. Decimal currency arrived in Australia on February 14, 1966. The 10-cent denomination was introduced then, and the basic design, a superb lyrebird by Stuart Devlin, remained the standard reverse through the 1970s and beyond. The 1976 pieces are simply part of that continuing series. Everyday money rather than a special commemorative issue. Reverse, back the lyrebird with its tail feathers swept forward above the head. This design was created by Stuart Devlin and is a defining trademark of Australian 10C coins. Obverse. Front the portrait used on 1976 coins is a young bust portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Arnold Machin. The Machin effigy was the obverse portrait used on Australian coins from 1966 through 1984. Around the bust you'll see the legend Elizabeth II and Australia with the year. Composition. Cupronickel. Weight, about 5.65 grams. Diameter, 23.6 millimeters. Edge milled reading. These are the standard technical specs for the decimal 10C of that era. Where it was made, geography. Most Australian 10C coins, including 1976 issues, were struck at the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra. Over the broader lifetime of the denomination, some dates/variants were struck at other mints overseas, but the Royal Australian Mint is the principal producer. Circulation life and commonality. The 10C coin was everyday change. trams, groceries, phone booths in earlier decades, so most surviving 1976 examples are common. Unless your coin has a rare error, misstrike, wrong planchet, off metal, etc., a standard 1976 10C in circulated condition is considered a common date and typically trades near face value or modest collector premiums. That said, error pieces and high-grade, uncirculated specimens can attract collector interest. Circulated condition, what you'll usually find. Surface, we're on the high points. The lyrebird's feathers and the queen's hair/tiara will be noticeably flattened and soft. Fields, background may show small nicks, scratches, and contact marks from handling. Luster, mostly gone. Coin looks duller, and the original mint shine is dispersed. Rim and lettering. Rim may be worn or knocked. Date and lettering still readable but not crisp. Uncirculated mint state. Condition what collectors want. Luster, full original mint luster, a bright, sometimes satiny sheen, across both fields and devices. Detail, the feathers of the lyrebird and the queen's portrait show crisp relief with sharp edges. No smoothing from wear. Surfaces, minimal to no contact marks. Hairlines from handling are absent. Strike, a sharp, even strike with a full, clean rim. Uncirculated coins may come directly from mint rolls or have been preserved in albums. Grading services can certify their mint state, MS grade. High numeric grades, MS65, MS66, etc., are far rarer and command collector premiums. Errors. Occasionally you'll find misstrikes or off-metal strikes that are much more valuable than a regular 1976 coin. Examples in news/auctions have shown certain error coins can fetch significant sums, but these are rare and should be authenticated by a reputable grader. Attribution. When checking portrait designers or small detail differences, use authoritative listings, Royal Australian Mint, major catalogs, or trusted numismatic guides. Small changes in portraits happen in later decades, so verifying the portrait era helps correctly identify the coin. If you've got a 1976 10C and you want to know its condition, hold it under a bright light. Compare the lyrebird tail and the queen's cheek/hair to good photos of uncirculated examples, and look for luster and edge sharpness. For any coin you suspect is an error or a high-grade uncirculated piece, consider getting it evaluated or slabbed by a reputable grading service before selling. For everyday collectors, a lovely uncirculated 1976 10C makes a satisfying pocket history piece. For serious collectors, rarity and grade are the drivers of value. Thanks for listening. If you want, I can now A. Write a shorter video voiceover version. B. Format this into a YouTube description and tags. Or C. Give a quick checklist to identify common error types on Australian decimal coins. Which would you like?